So welcome. I'm Professor Faye McCallum and I'm the head of the School of Education here at the University of Adelaide. So you've all come to hear about the Master of Teaching, so I assume you've got a prior degree and you're thinking about doing teaching as a postgrad, like a graduate entry pathway. So what I'll be talking about tonight, I was prepared to talk about three things: the graduate entry, teacher education, or the Masters of Ed, or a PhD. So I'll focus mainly on the first program because I think that's most relevant to you. So wonder what, this is actually a postgraduate qualification, the Master of Teaching, because you've already got a prior degree. So, why might you be thinking about doing this? Perhaps you've done a degree and you're out in the workforce and looking to do something a little bit different. I've got a current student in this degree who's an engineer, who came along to Open Day to talk to prospective students and said that he finished his degree, went out in the workforce. It really wasn't what he thought it would be like. He didn't feel his skills were valued. He also had could speak 2 other languages, really liked soccer. So when he was out in the field doing what engineers do, he wasn't able to use all the skills that he thought he could bring to his job. So he decided to come back and study the Master of Teaching degree. So he's nearly finished his first year with 6 more months to go, and he's finding it really valuable. He's just finished his 9-week prac, his placement in a school. He's in a soccer, as it happened, it was just a fluke, but he's in a soccer focused school, so he's got a passion for soccer as well as teaching maths and physics. So he's able to help with coaching and use that love as well as use his Italian and Spanish in his current job. So, he's an example of someone who's done a degree, went out there, didn't really enjoy it, and has now come in and doing something he feels really valued in. You might be thinking that, you finished uni a little while ago and didn't really have the headset or the desire to be a teacher. Maybe now you think that that's a good thing to do at this stage of your life. So let's just continue on as to why would you choose the University of Adelaide. You would know that we're what's called part of the group of 8 universities. That means we're in the top 8 universities in Australia. So we're a research intensive university, which means that our research outputs and things that staff do is highly valued across the world. We're actually ranked in the top 1% of universities worldwide. And we use that research to actually feed into our teaching. So staff are involved in both of those activities, which makes that the delivery you get from teachers really current and up to date because they're able to talk about the research they're currently doing. We've been around since 1874, so we have a really strong reputation in South Australia for what we do here at the University of Adelaide. And the School of Education has been around for over 100 years, so we've actually been involved in teacher education for quite a while. And we have a lot of rogue scholars and important alumni people that have graduated from our degrees here. So in the School of Education, we're actually a school situated in the Faculty of Arts along with a couple of other schools. So we get to work closely with staff across the faculty, and as you're probably experiencing, a lot of what you're studying now would be relevant to teaching. What would your areas be if you, what are you majoring in?
Double majoring in history and English.
Right, great. So what you're studying there is going to be really applicable to what you're going to be able to do as a secondary teacher. So our school has a vision of leading learners. We focus mainly on secondary and particularly senior secondary in this degree, the Master of Teaching. And we attract students into our degrees who are future leaders in the field of education. We seem to attract those people that already are thinking about leadership in schools and a career trajectory in education at a high level. And a lot of those people continue studying with us doing postgrads as well. We include in the courses that we offer you practicing teachers. So not all of the courses are staffed by academics. We actually have what we call curriculum and methodology classes. So we get practicing teachers coming in and taking those classes for you.
Hello.
Hi, come over here. go. For example, we work quite closely with the University Senior College, and some of the key teachers there in history and English and science will come over and actually take our classes. So we've got actually practicing teachers already working with you. So the teachers that we employ in the classes, have got currency, and they bring a lot of research and a variety of skills as well. So what you might like to need to know about being a teacher and about teaching is that, well, teachers are agents of change and transformation. They actually, the job of being a teacher influences direct community development. I was talking today to some third-year students who've just completed a placement in the country, because that's part of what they do in the undergrad. They all do a compulsory country placement, and they were sharing what they'd learnt about that experience, and a lot of them talked about the rural experiences, about being part of a community, and that's quite a bit different to the city, because you get to be part of that community, and not only you're seeing kids and families at school, but you're seeing them at netball and football and at the theatre and out on the farm and all those other places that you bump into the kids in your class. And what a good feeling that is, to be able to positively contribute to kids' development, not only academically but also socially as well. Teachers focus on changing society for the better, so teachers often have a really strong sense of social justice and wanting to contribute to society and making it a better place. Teachers too see their job as a moral responsibility, and I think working with kids in secondary schools, adolescents and pre-adolescents, is a really critical part of their life and their child development, and people like teachers can be really critical to their development and how they're seeing and experiencing the world. And also teachers like you would have a love for history and English. You get to impart that love and passion for your subject and your knowledge into the kids in the classroom too. So in those sorts of ways you can actually be an agent of change. Teachers also make a difference because you're working with young adolescents. You get to actually mould and help them think and achieve and influence them as they're growing up. Kids today, I think, have quite challenging home environments often, and social media, I think, has brought a whole sort of level of challenges for young kids growing up, and I think teachers can be really consistent adults in their lives as well as their parents to help them navigate those changes as they're going along. You can also bring new ideas and change into the classroom, helping kids work through those sorts of things and actually contribute to society being a better place. The curriculum is what we teach kids. You can also use the curriculum to help kids understand why, I think particularly in history, why things have happened, what things are happening in the current, and what things might happen in the future. I've talked about social justice, but the last one is also leadership, how teachers can take on a leadership role in the school, in the society, and many teachers do that as part of their daily work. So what do effective teachers need to have? Well, they need to be strong academically, particularly if you're working in a secondary school. So you need to have not only that love of your learning area, your subject, but also, be quite highly acclaimed at it. So you said you did a degree a little while ago. What was that in?
Science.
Science, okay, great. And yours?
Mine is international studies.
Right, okay. That's a bit trickier.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what about you? Have you got a prize?
Social science and major in sociology.
Right, great. So all of you have got strong academic content already. Teachers also need numeracy and literacy skills, so that's every teacher. And I'll talk a little bit about why later on, about why we all need that. Good interpersonal communication skills, because this is a people profession and you're working with not only young children and adolescents and teenagers, but also their parents sometimes, and you need to be able to communicate and support them. Being willing to learn. I think teaching is a lifelong learning profession where you just keep learning all the time. So if you have that sort of innate interest in always learning and reading and wanting to know new things, it's just part of your daily work when you're a teacher. You need to be a positive person and be good at sharing and telling, explaining things to others, because you're trying to teach kids learn different concepts and things. You need to have a bit of grit and enjoyment for life. And just talking to those third year students I mentioned before today, and they were reflecting on their early experiences teaching in country schools, and they were saying things like, oh, I know I need to work on being more confident, or another one said, I need to work on how to manage confrontation. He said, it hasn't happened, but maybe one day in a class I might get confronted with something, so I need to be ready to deal with that if it happens. So that's about that grit and resilience that you might need as a teacher. Also having some self-efficacy, a good positive outlook, self-esteem, being able to persevere at things. Sometimes when you're teaching kids concepts, they don't always get it the first time. And you've got to be able to go to your plan B, C, D or E and help kids understand what they're learning. Be conscientious, be a warm and empathetic person, and also be organised. So if you're interested in the Master of Teaching degree, it's actually a 2-year accredited degree, but we teach it in accelerated mode over 18 months. And we do that for a number of reasons. We find that people like you that already have a degree and might have been in the workforce for a while, you make a conscious decision to want to be a teacher, and you sort of want to get there as quickly as possible. You've done your undergrad, you've done your time, but you've made this decision to come in, and you just want to get there and get done. So we offer it in 18 months. But that also means it's pretty busy because you're actually overloading in a lot of your subjects. So you need to be sort of really prepared for that. So in the first year, you can see that these are the names of some of the courses you do. So student-teacher interaction is about learning how to communicate with kids. Depending on your learning areas, whether it's science or history or English, you do curriculum methodology units, and they're the ones where we bring teachers in to work with you on, well, what are the best pedagogies you need to learn to teach kids in history or teach kids in science. Also, those courses help you learn how to plan for kids learning in your area. So you have a 20-day placement, which is 4 weeks of 5 days, where we plan the placement for you and you go out to a secondary school. Then you come back for an intensive week where you work to come back, all students come back together, we work together on how did it go, what worked well, what didn't work so well, what do we need to plan for next time, and then you go out for your second placement, which is 45 days. It's 9 weeks, which is a long time, but it's nearly a whole term in a school. So our current Masters teachers are finishing up this week. So they've been out there for 9 weeks. And that's the end of the placement part of the degree. What happens in the rest of this year is you choose some electives to do. And there's those 4 there that we recommend because they're very supportive of learning different skills that teachers need. In particular, the supportive and safe learning environments is a really good one. For learning how to set up positive learning environments in classrooms, how to make the best of that environment so kids that come into your class feel wanted, supported and safe in that environment and then can get on with learning. Another one that's really good is the education for inclusion because as you can imagine, classes are full of kids with all different abilities. So that one helps you understand what those diverse abilities are and how to plan for that. So that takes you through the first 12 months. And then in the second year, you do an intensive course in summer called Research Design. And we actually teach you how to be a researcher. The beauty of this degree is that you get to do a research project. And after you've done the summer school around teaching you research skills, you do a student researcher in residence placement. And that's done on a fairly casual basis. You're assigned to a school for a first semester of the year and you do a research project in the school. You're not there every day. You're there perhaps once a week. You might drop in to catch up with whoever the contact person is there around your topic, but you're actually conducting a research project. Now, if you have aspirations to ever do a PhD or go on to higher study, by completing this research component, you'll be eligible for a PhD. And that's really quite unique. There's no other Masters of Teaching degrees across Australia that I know of that offer that actual component. You might do a little bit of research embedded in the other courses, but you won't actually do a research project like that one. So just back to the professional experience placements. First one, 20 days in a school. We put you in a different school for the second one. We organise the placements for you. You don't need to worry about that. And we use secondary schools across South Australia, so city or country, and we try and work with you to find a placement. That's going to be a really positive experience. We use public schools, Catholic schools, independent schools. So some of the features of that is that we work really closely with a lot of schools. Schools love having our students. They find that our students are particularly bright in terms of content knowledge because you've come through a GO8 and you've done a really solid degree. So they find that our students are very good on their content knowledge. And the way we've designed our degree to teach you the pedagogy through having current teachers coming in means that you're really well prepared to teach. And during your placement, our staff come out to visit you in your schools, and I've been doing a little bit of that in the last few weeks. We come out to see how you're going, we support you. If there's any issues going on there, we help you sort them out with the teacher. Often there's not, because we take a lot of time to get you a good placement. But we also can give you some feedback on how well you're going and help you with that as well. So your entry requirement is a bachelor's degree. What's important about that is that you preferably need 2 majors, which aligns with the teaching curriculum in a school. So if you think about the subjects that are taught in schools, there's 8 main ones, but if you look on the SACE website, you'll see that some of those areas are broken down into minor areas as well. So your prior degree needs to match at least 2 areas that you can teach at a secondary level. The only other entry requirement, and it won't apply from the beginning of next year, but it will from a mid-year intake and beyond, is that every university across Australia in teaching now has to assess what we call a non-academic entry requirements. So we're working with SATAC to design a tool that's going to assess things like your resilience, your willingness to learn, your interpersonal skills, your organisation and planning, things like that. So there's going to be an online tool that everyone will do as part of the application process through SATAC. But that doesn't apply from the beginning of the year, only from mid-year. Some other things that have to happen during your degree, because this is compulsory, our degrees are accredited nationally, so which means you can take your degree and work anywhere across Australia, and you can also teach obviously overseas in a lot of countries as well. A lot of our graduates go to the UK for a while. International schools in Asia are quite popular as well, and throughout Europe. But some other things you have to do, because we're accredited, and this is the same in every degree, you have to do what we call as a Dixie check. That's a criminal history screening check. You've probably heard about that. And obviously, we want people that are safe people without criminal records to be working with our children and young people, because they're vulnerable people. So you all have to have a cleared check. If you don't get a cleared check, you won't be able to do your placement. If you can't do your placement, you can't finish your degree, and you wouldn't get a job anyway. The other thing we help you with that. These are all things that we will help you do. The second thing is a one-day training in reporting suspected abuse and neglect, and again we help you do that through various places in Adelaide that offer that. It's a one-day training that every teacher has to do. Even if you're already a teacher, you have to do refresher courses every 3 years, and it just helps you identify and know what to do if a child in your class is suspected of being abused or neglected. And then just before you graduate or any time in your degree, you have to do this thing called, we call it the LANTITE, the Literacy and Numeracy Test. Now this has just been introduced nationally across Australia. The current government feels that people in the teaching profession should be in the top 30% of the population in terms of literacy and numeracy skills. So there's an online test that everybody has to do with two components. One's around literacy, one's around numeracy. And you all have to pass that before you graduate. You have 3 goes at doing that. It's best to try and pass it the first time because then you don't have to pay for it the second or third time. But if there's any issues with that, you do get to have 3 goes at it. And we have some support here at the uni that can help you through the Writing Centre and the Maths Centre if you need any help with either of those. And there's also another in-service sort of a professional requirement, which is the child protection curriculum, which we actually teach in one of our courses. So that's also a teaching requirement.